Real talk, time. Today we're going to talk about one of humanity's greatest and worst inventions. This is, of course, the thing that only exists when you are observing it. We are talking about time. Some people have too much of it, others too little. The value we ascribe to time is completely dependent upon who you are. Some would argue that the most productive and efficient individuals in our world are the people who are the most aware and productive with their time. Time is something that escapes us. Time is something that we seem to have an infinite amount of until we have a finite amount of it. Time is that one thing that you never really appreciate until you're running out of it. Although many religions attempt to teach us to cherish time, many of us just simply do not do this in our daily lives. So let's get a little bit more specific. Time is one of the most powerful gifts that you can give people. And what do I mean by this? What I mean is that our time on this earth is limited, right? Now I'm putting up the framework, right? I'm saying, oh, we're gonna die, so every second you have counts. Now that's a pretty big framework to work with, but let's be a little bit more specific, because we as humans, whether we realize it or not, we divvy up our time to different people and different interests and different activities. And whether or not we are aware of our limited time, the fact of how we spend our time says a lot. And I think that as humans, we should all try to be a little bit more aware of time. And what I mean by this is how people spend their time and the actions they do and what that says about how they're using their time. I think that one of the greatest compliments that you can give to someone is to give them your time. Because when you stop doing things that you want to do, when you spend time with them, you are taking away this precious time away from your daily life, from your weekly life, from your overall life. The time that you spend with other people should be recognized for what it is, a very nice gesture. Because get this, a lot of people are really good at staying busy. A lot of people are really good at not giving up their time. And something that a lot of people don't realize is that if you spend a lot of time with somebody, just by the virtue of the fact that you spend a lot of time with them, you are attached to that person. We like to ascribe value to time, right? People always say time is money. So you have time, you give time, you spend time with somebody else, you ascribe more value to that person is now a more valuable person to you. This is a very straightforward explanation that, a lot of people don't necessarily realize, but that is basically how it works. You spend more time with somebody, you grow and you develop a relationship with them, and they become a more prominent figure in your life. So I'm saying, as people, that we should be more aware of when others are committing time to us. The time it takes to stop somebody in the hallway and ask them how their day is going, or the time it takes to send a text message, or any of these things. I think that so many of us are guilty of disregarding other people's time. And when you disregard other people's time, that is a very kind of grievous insult, and a lot of us don't recognize it. We've heard the expression "don't waste my time." We've heard that one many times, but we don't really realize how often it happens on a daily basis, right? When you get a text message from a friend and he says, how are you doing? And if you don't respond, he has literally stopped. Like, you have to imagine, when he sends you that message, he has stopped his day. He is taking time out of his day. He's specifically thinking about you. But here's where it gets even better, is that he cares so much about you that he's asking you a question about your life, and he's interested in the answer. And even more so is he's indicating he's willing to invest further time in your life because he's waiting to hear the answer to this question, and presumably there will be follow-up questions. So the guy who's asking you this question probably does not realize how much he's invested and committed for, but I think on some kind of subconscious level we recognize this. And so when your friend doesn't respond to you when you've asked him how his day was, it's very, you get a little salty, you get a little bit upset, because you say, hey, I took time out of my day to see how you were doing, and you couldn't even be bothered to give me a reply back. So that's just one very specific example of how time can be invested in, how time can be spurned, and how that makes another person feel. I think so often that we are very much tied up in our own lives, and we don't take the time to appreciate how others are investing time in our lives. Because anytime you ever talk to someone or ask them a question or give them an opportunity to talk about their life, that is somebody else investing time in you. I don't think we often recognize that. Often we are seeing these other people as pests or things that are preventing us from doing another thing we have to do. The very act of initiating conversation with another person is one person saying, hey, I think that you have something worthwhile to say, so I'm listening and investing time in what you're about to say. So I think that what we need is a little perspective or a little bit more framing, where we realize that simply reaching out to other people is an investment of time, and that is one of the most fundamental parts of human nature, just reaching out to other people. And so I think the investment of time, the use of time, it's a very big compliment, and then it can also be a very grievous way to insult someone is by wasting their time, because the value that person ascribes to their time is dependent upon their views on life. Maybe they see their time as limited, maybe they see their time as unlimited, but I think that there's still an inherent value to time regardless of whether we perceive it or not. And so now that I am more aware of this, now that this has become a more salient issue in my life, I think I'm going to try and move forward and recognize when people are investing time in me, and to reciprocate that and to be thankful for it, because I don't think anybody ever really stops and thinks, wow, like, I'm really thankful for the time that other people spend with me. Like, you might be thankful for them, or you might be thankful for the experience you've had, but I don't think people ever really stop and think, wow, like, they've invested their time in me. Don't get me wrong, it happens sometimes, but not all the time. And so going forward, what is the application of talking about time and what we've just talked about now? Well, I think you can very easily figure out which people in your life are good for you or worth your time, and which people are bad for you / not worth your time. A very easy way to do this is say, okay, who in my life devotes time to me? When I send them a text message, when they do respond, do they take the time to write me a full response? Do they write more than one word? Do they give a response that is actually very self-reflective of how they actually talk and speak in real life? Another way of looking at this is, hey, when you see this person in real life, do they give you time? Because it doesn't even matter how busy you are. Really, really busy, successful people recognize how important time is. And you'll know when you have their full undivided attention. And that's them kind of emphasizing the fact that, yes, I'm giving you my time. So by looking at people in your life and looking at the amount of time they give you, you can figure out how much they're really worth your time, because there shouldn't be this disparity in your relationships with people. You shouldn't be giving somebody all of your time and then they're begrudgingly giving you a little bit of their time, right? Theoretically, the idea is that both people should want to give equal amounts of time. I mean, it's not always going to be perfect, but at least if one person initiates, the other person should respond in kind. It's this sharing of time that is, very central to building our relationships with other people. So if you have people in your life that you give a lot of time to, or you make attempts to give time to, and they have no time of their own to spare for you, then I would say that person is not worth your time. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this world that got their heads up their ass and they're just literally running around asleep and blind. And what I mean by asleep and blind is they're not cognitively aware of the fact that their decisions and actions and choices and how they're affecting other people. They're living their life with their blinders on. And I know this is something I've talked about before, and if anything, if I ever had like a main prejudice or hate, like just like a solid hate, my hate is for people who are unaware. The people that are just living their life with their blinders on, with their heads down, and their existence is limited to, you know, their job and their Netflix and whatever. It's like, I want to challenge people to increase their breadth of experience. I want to challenge people to see more, do more, think more. A lot of people like to say one of the main markers of intelligence is questions and critical thinking, right? Critical thinking is the idea that you are thinking about something and you're questioning it and you're coming up with new answers and new questions, right? So one can very easily say that asking questions is indicative of critical thinking. Asking questions is indicative of higher level intelligence. Asking questions is indicative of an investment in time, not only in the question itself, but of the answer. So when you ask somebody else a question, you are not only investing your time, but you are also showing that you're interested in the response, that you may actually participate in some critical thinking, because we should not just be accepting everything verbatim as it is. Our existence should not be a series of spoon-fed moments from Netflix to lectures to preschool to junior high to university. Our life should be more than this. It should be a dialogue back and forth. Questions preceded by answers, by more questions, by more responses. This is the human interaction, this is the human experience, and this will dominate most of our time. And so the question I have for you is, are you using your time well?